All right, I want to take one quick look then at Canto 4. See, we're just racing along here. Canto 4 is people who aren't necessarily sinners, but who haven't been Christianized, who are not Christians. So that can fall into a number of different camps. There are unbaptized babies here, which is sad but not dwelled upon, but in order to be theologically consistent, Dante notes it. There are, most notably, however, pre-Christian figures. And here, the most notable of them, the most remarkable for Dante himself, are the great authors of the past, the great heroes of the classical age in terms of Dante's perspective, which are the poets. And he comes to Limbo and sees them, recognizes that there is something different, even among all of these people milling around in this kind of vague landscape. There's one group that is set apart specifically, and they just have something great about them. That is Dante's perspective, and of course Dante, the poet, thinks that poets have something great about them, thinks that poets are nobles, thinks that poets are separate from the crowd, even as they're being punished as a group. So their collective punishment casts them into hell, but within that there arises a kind of natural aristocracy, and the poets are the pinnacle of it. And you see that when you get to them, we go. Virgil will point out to Dante all of the different characters of the Old Testament who are there, of the Hebrew Bible. Adam is there, notably not Eve. We're told the word parente is used, our first parent, parente in Italian, which really means relative, but it is curiously vague on that point, and it's seemingly singular and masculine. So where's Eve? I don't know. Unaddressed. I think that's significant because there are so few women in Dante's vision. But you see the great patriarchs. You see Noah. You see all of this, and these are figures who, of course, come before Christ. So through no fault of their own and no reflection of their own indignity, they were in there. But then they were rescued from hell by Jesus in Christian doctrine. But the figures of the authors, we are told that there is Homer, who is the leader, and he is curiously mute throughout all of this. Dante did not know Greek, so he only knew Greek through translation, he only knew Homer through translation, through the testament of other writers before him, basically by reputation, through writers like Virgil. And so you get another, Dante is celebrating Homer and saying how great he is, but Dante is in a sort of subservient follower role to Virgil in his appreciation. So that's a complicated little moment. And you go through Homer, you go through Horace, notable contemporary of Virgil, you go through Ovid, another younger contemporary of the Augustan age, and another writer named Lucan. The other figure in that is, of course, Virgil. Virgil is a creature of limbo. Virgil is pre-Christian. Virgil admits as much in Canto 2 that he was just sort of milling around in limbo, and he will never be able to escape that. He will never be able to see heaven. But he is singled out by divine providence to go on this journey and take Dante through this tour. But you get this this wonderful little moment where Dante the poet is singled out by the other poets, by the other great poets, or Dante the character is singled out by the other great poets, and they treat him, or they honor him, as one of their equals, one more among their number, or whatever the phrase is, which is a bold move for Dante to say that Homer singles you out and says, "Hey, you're one of us." Whoa! The founder of the Greco-Roman tradition, the author of the Iliad and the Odyssey, from which so much stems, to have Homer say, "You got it, pal." Wow, what a moment. And to have that suddenly elevate Dante the character onto that level with Virgil. Virgil has led him to this place, and now Dante is being sort of heralded, being brought in and saying, "Hey, I'm just among you." That is a curious reversion of or at least an equalization, a leveling of the teacher and student relationship. That's going to make things a little bit more uncomfortable. We also then get a series of other characters from classical history and classical mythology, many of whom are women. We get a curious little inclusion of the females. There was Electra standing with the group, among whom I saw Hector and Aeneas, and Caesar, falconized and fully armed. I saw Camilla and Penthesilea. I can't pronounce that. I saw Camilla and Penthesilea. Across the way, I saw the Latian king with Lavinia, his daughter, by his side. I saw Brutus and drove out the Tarquin, Lucretia, Julia, Marcia, and Cornelia. Off by himself, I noticed Saladin, and when I raised my eyes a little higher, I saw the master sage of those who know, sitting with his philosophic family. All gaze at him, all pay their homage to him, and there I saw both Socrates and Plato, each closer to his side than any other. Democritus, who said the world was chance, Diogenes, Thales, Anaxagoras, Empedocles, Zeno, and Heraclitus. I saw the one who classified our herbs, Dioscorides, I mean. I saw Orpheus, Tully, Linus, Seneca, the moralist, Euclid, the geometer, and Ptolemy, Hippocrates, Galen, and Avicenna, and Averroes, who made the commentary. I cannot tell about them all in full. My theme is long and urges me ahead. Often I must omit the things I have seen. He gives this long list of figures from ancient history: the philosophers, the poets, the heroes, the warriors, all of these figures, some of whom legendary, some of whom historical, some of whom outright mythological, but they are the greats. And you get a sense that he is somewhat awed by them. And we can't help but notice these names, some of whom are genuinely world-changing, some of whom are genuinely great. But why are they in hell? Why are they being punished? Why are they forced to just wait without hope of ever seeing God? All of these figures to whom we owe so much in culture, in history, in the development of humanity. Why are they being punished? Exclusively because they are not Christian, through no fault of their own. They were born before Christ. They did not know of him, and they are being punished for that. And I don't think Dante is questioning the orthodoxy of that, questioning the reality of that, but he is noting it. And in noting it, in making it conspicuous like this, in pointing it out in this very conspicuous way at the end of the Canto. He is, I think, prodding us to judge, prodding us to say, well, that's not right. Why would that have to be like that? Why all of them? We are being called on to exercise our own judgment, to not be awed by the big marquee names of everybody out there, but to question the organization itself, I think. I think Dante has a very fixed idea of there is right, there is wrong, and sometimes God's judgment is harsh. But he is leaving that to us as individuals, io sol uno, as individuals to wrestle with, to come to terms with this enormity of God's design on our own terms, or at least to find our own way into God's terms. It is, again, a curious opposition between the divine plan and the individual within it. Those elements are always being put in tension. And yet you also get that curious line, often I must omit things I have seen, which is coming from the poet Dante, but telling you that he is editing his own perceptions, that he is throwing out a lot of details, that we're only getting a fractured perspective on what is there. He's not giving you the whole portrait. He's giving you only a very limited vision of that. So we have to recalibrate our own understanding of what we're seeing and say, well, okay, but that is just one point. There are others. And that shifts us back into uncertainty because we're not getting all the information. We're not getting all the evidence. We're not getting the full picture. We're only getting a fractured view of it, which ultimately is all that's possible in humanity. We can't know it all. We can't see it all. We have to rely on our imperfect vision, our imperfect sight that is forever getting darker as this poem progresses. The company of six becomes just two, referring back to the poets, the artifice of this. So the two, Virgil and Dante, break off from the other poets. My wise guide leads me another by another way. My wise guide, reasserting that Virgil is in charge. Virgil is perhaps passive aggressively splitting him off and saying, no, okay, that's enough you hanging out with Homer and my homies. We gotta go. Out of the quiet into tempestuous air, I came into a place where no light is. So they're leaving behind the great heroes and artists and philosophers of the past. They're leaving behind the light of wisdom and humanity. And they are entering a realm of near total darkness. And everything from this point will be in shades of deep occlusion. Everything from this point will be very limited in sight. And we are being prepped for that. We are being told, don't trust your senses. Everything you see is a shadow against a deeper shadow. Everything you see is very harshly fractured in your understanding. So you need to bring your mental capacity into bear. You need to see with a deeper sight. You need to see between the lines of the words on the page to understand what is really, really going on in the larger scheme of God's design.